Welcome to the ELI5Bot channel, where we read 10 random questions and their most voted answers related to mathematics, economics, culture, biology, technology and many more. Disclaimer.
All the material used on this channel is owned and/or copyrighted by either an individual or company, or available on the public domain. This channel may contain offensive, aggressive, and rude language, or graphic content. ELI5Bot holds no responsibility for those who may be affected by it.
Viewer discretion is advised.
Wait. What? P.S. Don't panic. At number 1, in the category Economics, the user C4Chokes asks, Taxation on overseas profit. The reply comes from Ansus07. We aren't preventing them from bringing the money back. They can bring it back anytime they want to. The issue is that once the money is repatriated, it is subject to U.S. income tax rates. Those rates are high enough that companies would rather not repatriate the money. The only way to convince them to bring the money back would be to significantly lower the rates, which we do from time to time in the form of a tax holiday. Up next at number 2, in the category Physics, the user Me First and Last asks, Acceleration of the expansion of the universe. Which the user Albert replied, When you throw a ball, as soon as it leaves your hand it starts to decelerate. This is because it takes a force to accelerate an object. Once that force stops, then the acceleration stops. Once it has left your hand, gravity and air resistance work to slow it down. We believe dark matter exists because of the way galaxies behave. There isn't enough ordinary matter to hold a spinning galaxy together. Centrifugal force would tear one apart. Only by adding dark matter can the physics work. We think the expansion of the universe is caused by dark energy, but we have little understanding of how it works. At number 3, in the category Biology, the user Fix Bayonet Slades is looking to know, why, when scores of their number all die in the same place, do ants not avoid that location? The reply comes from Stupid Lemon Eater. To put it simply, ants are dumb. They lack the capability to understand that an area is hazardous. Even if they did, they probably wouldn't care because they are eusocial animals and act in the best interest of the colony rather than the individual. Up next at number 4, in the category Engineering, the user DGFSDG1 asked, Remote EEG and the possibility of a mind-reading device. Christar78 answered the following, Your brain works by emitting small amounts of electricity, so other parts of the brain. Sensors attached to your scalp can detect these signals. Those signals can be transferred and amplified to inject them into another person. Normally the sensors need direct scalp contact to get a good reading. But now they can do it without needing physical contact with your head. Up next at number 5, in the category Engineering, the user Redliner Revs is looking to know, how is a 250 GB hard drive physically different to a 4 TB hard drive? Skip Weasel answered the following, There may be more platters, that is the rotating disk bit. You can stack several on top of each other to provide more area. Or they may store the information more densely on a single platter. The latter means much finer control over the positioning of the read/write head, and a much smaller active area in the head, both of which are more expensive to do. Here is an explanation of the price evolution of hard disks. So, they are getting much cheaper per byte, but the technology is moving forward all the time. We might also be near the end of the spinning rust era. And at number 6, in the category Economics, the user Z3 Limited asks, What happens financially to an airline when it loses an airplane, either in a crash or just out of the blue? Are they liable for the cost of the plane, or does an insurance company pay for it? Which the user Mepsarakul replied, All of these aircraft are bought via financing or even leased, and so they are all insured. I don't know what would happen to insurance premiums after an aircraft was lost. Presumably there would be an investigation into the cause of the loss and any negligence on the part of the airline. Up next at number 7, in the category Other, the user Diziliman asks, why do extreme right-wing groups like the Nazis use the term socialist in their party names? Which the user Charlie Don't Surf replied. This is a terrific question. First, a little bit of history and semantics. The definitions of the political labels of right-wing and left-wing differ depending on the era, the country, the issue, and who's labeling who. Commonly accepted modern American definitions of these terms differ significantly with those in other modern countries, and they differ even more so with historical examples. It is important to understand this. National Socialism was the ideology of Adolf Hitler. It was a form of fascism, a political ideology that took root in Europe in the first half of the 20th century. The three main fascist countries of that era were Spain, Italy, and Germany. The specifics of each country's version of fascism differed, but all shared similar general traits: extreme nationalism, leader worship, a centralized and authoritarian government, and an obsession with perceived former national greatness, the Roman Empire, Charlemagne, etc. The German version of fascism was National Socialism. National Socialism added a racial superiority element to fascist ideology that was largely absent from its Spanish and Italian versions. Hitler's party's official title was the National Socialist German Workers' Party, commonly abbreviated as the Nazi Party. The Nazis are often referred to as right-wing, but this was not really the case, at least not in the modern American sense of the term. Modern right-wingers in the U.S. tend to focus on reducing the size of government and leaving more authority to state governments and individual citizens. Examples include opposing gun control and reducing government regulation of businesses. Modern right-wingers tend to be primarily concerned with preserving individual liberty. Many right-inclined individuals are also social conservatives and oppose abortion and secularism, but conservative and right-wing aren't necessarily synonymous. Again, it's all a matter of semantics and perspective. The Nazis were socialists. They rejected capitalism and believed individual rights were less important than national strength and government authority. They believed in a strong central government which guided the economy rather than allowing business owners to do as they please. The Nazis viewed American-style free market capitalism as undesirable for several reasons, to include a belief that capitalism was unfair to workers, that businesses allowed Jewish control over society, and that without a strong government role in the economy businesses would tend toward providing creature comforts and expensive, frivolous consumer goods and services rather than enhancing national strength. Despite being openly socialistic and hating capitalism, the Nazis were also anti-communist, although their opposition to communism was arguably based largely on the fact that it was perceived as a Jewish ideology and that Germany's biggest national enemy, the USSR, was the leader of world communism. In this sense, the National Socialist economic policy was really more of a third way, state capitalist ideology, a system that was neither communist nor capitalist but one in which the government used a highly regulated private sector as an engine for generating military and diplomatic power. It is important to understand that modern neo-Nazis and other related hate groups are generally not right-wing in the Republican, Ayn Rand reading, Tea Party sense of the word. Most modern Hitler sympathizers base their ideology on what is best for their race, not on traditionally American right-wing values of limited government and constitutional freedom. They are often proud to call themselves National Socialists because they view Hitler's socialistic ideology as one which benefited a racially based political state. Up next at number 8, in the category Other, the user 11 asked, how are airlines evaluated for safety and security? The reply comes from Accidental Libril. Safely evacuating an airline, that is, a large commercial passenger aircraft, assumes that it's already on the ground and not moving. You want to get people out because if the plane is in an emergency state, it is no longer safe, in the same way a car isn't safe if something's wrong. It's not like a plane would randomly blow up if it was leaking hydraulic fluid or an engine broke and stopped working. But in emergencies the pilot and such want passengers away from the plane to make sure that they don't get involved of anything else going wrong, just in case anything else goes wrong. But if the plane is on fire or sinking into the ocean, yeah, you want to get people out fast. So all major airlines are equipped with giant inflatable slides that can double as life rafts that look like this. All the doors adjacent to the emergency slides have instructions on them that say people sitting beside them must be able to open the door, use a quick release handle, and then detach and throw the door outside, so that people can get out quicker. These doors have lights that turn on in an emergency. There's also lights on the floor and ceiling telling people to move to the emergency exits. They are on the floor as well as the ceiling because people might be crawling if the cabin is full of smoke. They don't give passengers parachutes because it's a lot simpler to try and recover the aircraft with everyone inside than turning what is essentially living cargo, the passengers, into several dozen unskilled and panicking pilots, and letting the plane crash uncontrolled by itself. The majority of accidents happen during landing and takeoff anyways, when parachutes are useless. Military pilots get to use parachutes for quite different reasons that don't apply to commercial flight very much. There's no obvious way to make a plane secure once it's on the ground other than simply not opening the door. Aircraft are designed to be pressure vessels, which means they have sturdy doors and walls. When the aircraft is ready for flight, or has just landed, it's still locked up pretty tight. When people need to get out, it's fairly straightforward to round everyone up and put them on a bus or something. If there's a suspicious passenger, security can just take that person. Keeping terrorists off planes, or knowing what to do if terrorists are on the plane, are complicated and quite different from evacuation. And by the by, security surrounding flight is also pretty complicated. Airports must be secure, as does baggage handling, the runway, and the radio communications channels they use. Interference in any of those can be very unsafe. At number 9, in the category Other, the user for friend Angles is looking to know: how do animals in areas with planes survive huge hail? Which the user Detremine replied: huge hail, that is hail big enough to kill animals, is very rare, and when it does fall only falls in a small area. So the survivability of animals in those regions is essentially unaffected. Up next at number 10, in the category Economics, the user Kugelbalwanza asked: why didn't true economical liberalism didn't work? The reply comes from Lawlersus 914. By far the most successful economies today are liberal democracies, and the only economic philosophy that has produced long-term growth is one generally characterized by liberalism. That's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.